So welcome to the webinar. Today's webinar will just be a recap of last week's performance, last week's wins, losses, and kind of covering maybe missed opportunities as well as opportunities for next week. So before we kind of get into things, I'm just going to have a quick recap of what I have been doing over the last week or so. As a lot of you have probably noticed from my analysis as well as the charts that I've been posting recently on my story, probably for the last sort of 4 or 5 months actually. Situation for myself has changed in regards to schedule, so I don't really have time now to be scalping. It's more of I'm happy to just trade swings and trade like higher time frame moves, purely because one, that's how I learned to trade initially anyway, when I first learned to trade. And secondly, it just suits the lifestyle a little bit more. For some people, scalping is easier. Maybe you have a different kind of patience. Maybe you're impatient. Maybe you're happy to hold trades and swing trade, etc. This week and last week, have been in the same trade for, I worked out now that it's nearly 20 days. So that's nearly 3 weeks. That'd be like 3 working weeks, because obviously we're open Monday to Friday, Sunday evening to Friday evening in the market. So I've been in pound yen for that time. So if we quickly, this isn't even accurate anymore. The entry was before that, but I only just marked it up on that. So as you can see from my last Instagram post, I'm in GBP, JPY, so pound yen shorts. I am up now 160 pips. Yeah, let's call it 160 pips. I was up about 280 as well. I was up like another 100. But obviously, you know how it is with pound yen. The pullbacks are usually quite fierce. So essentially, I took entries based on like a weekly double top. So if I just jump into that now, yeah, there we go. So if I jump into that now, it was like a weekly double top that made me take my initial entries. And then since then, I've essentially been just riding like the lower time frame structure. So if we just jump into the 4 hour, just quickly move this box because it's in the way. Yeah, so if we jump into the 4 hour as well, you can see we've just been making essentially lows, highs, lows, highs, lows, high, and essentially we've just been following decent bearish structure on the 4 hour for the last probably week or so now. What day is that? That's like the 10th. So yeah, the last probably 2 weeks we had like a last push in. So I went into a little bit of drawdown. But on the most part, I've been in profit now for over a week. I've had stop loss at break even for over a week, and I'm probably not going to trail it down just because of the pair. So pound yen moves like I said, quite fierce in regards to its pushbacks. So it might tap into a level and push back. For example, you can see this kind of daily move was 90 pips, basically the best part of 100 pips, just as a retracement, just on the 4 hour for us to make a lower high. So then a lower low is going to come and that's probably going to be another 100, 150 pips. Long term, I genuinely do see us going down to probably 141, 142. But my initial target is 145, 200. So I'm not sure why it's that far down, but 145, 200 is my initial target. There we go. So you can see why it's kind of a big key level. I think we'll probably push into and we'll probably break, but that's where I'll be happy to take profit. I have 2 positions running. I have one at 148,693 and I have one at 148,350, something like that. So essentially just took another position because we started making bearish structure. So I just jumped in again. Still 1% risk. So let's just look in the chat box, see what we wanted to go for. No, this is not the market fluidity. I will be doing a guest slot on the market fluidity if I've got time this afternoon, because I know it's starting short. Well, I think it might have started actually. And then I think in like 2 hours or so, I will jump on and see, maybe say a few words with Rick Hill, see kind of what he's up to. Obviously, we don't catch up as much as we did previously. So that is last week's trade. So I'm currently in pound yen shorts. Last week I did a webinar as well on USD JPY and setups for that. So if you just jump into that. Also, we're running nicely. I've closed one position. I've closed a position. So I'm looking for another entry basically to try and get back into this. I do see 111 flat. So that's another 150 pips. I think we'll probably move that to the downside. The structure's changed on kind of the daily time frame. And if we jump into the 4 hourly as well, you've essentially come down, you made low, made a high, made a low, made a high, and tried to retest a low. So I think at this point now, we're probably going to continue moving down. But yeah, so I think realistically, you'd be looking for 111 flat as like a take profit level. Where else did we look at? So yeah, if you look at, so this again was a weekly double top. Because reason I was looking out for double tops as well over the last couple of weeks was I was helping out with the Regal Forex challenge that Brian and Toby are running on Telegram. It's like really, really good program they're sort of running, letting people join in, letting people post their analysis. I know that they're giving away prizes as well, so I definitely recommend, if you don't follow them already, to follow them. And I think the link for the Telegram is in their Instagram bios, but do not quote me on that. If not, just reach out to them and ask for it. I know it is completely free. So yeah, we look into UJ on the weekly time frame, and essentially that was our double top, and the entry was taken in this candle. So I waited for this candle to close on the weekly, and then the next week I entered. So far, so good. I mean, stop loss was relevant. Stop loss was like 100 pips. TP, realistically, it's going to be 270. So that's like a 1 to 2.7, 2.8 risk reward. So again, nice, nice risk reward there. I think that IG, right. The Instagram is Regal Forex. So that's Regal Forex. You just have to Google that and you'll find it. But yeah, I would absolutely recommend doing that. So for this week, I'm probably thinking 111 to the downside, and then we'll see. But yeah, just see how that runs. I might try and take another entry on that. Like I said, you can see quite clearly the structure-wise that we should push down still. Gold is an interesting one. I'm still looking to try and shoot for 1240. If we jump down to the smaller time frame on the 4 hour now, we're just in we're in a box of price of like consolidation for basically 2 months. And then we just literally popped out of it with probably one of the biggest daily candles I've seen. It's like a 300 pip candle, which is pretty insane. But so we've popped out of that now, looking to probably go to at least 1240, which would be the logical area for me, where we had a previous decline in price and a big sell-off down to like 1160. 4 hour you've popped up and popped out. However, at the moment it's in a box again, so there isn't like a defined low or defined high. So we'll just draw a box right there. To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be looking to take buys until we've broken out of this kind of price range. Still gives you at least 80 pips to shoot for, but ideally you want to be in before that. But for me at this point, there is no trade to take. My opinion is just that we will go to 1240 over the next coming weeks, probably week, maybe 2. what other pairs am I looking at? Euro USD is pair I've been looking at as well. Again, something I would probably say, looking at the 4 hour, we've just had made significant bear structure. You've been making your lows and your highs. So look, if we take a look here, you've made your low, come up, made a low high, new low, and broken further. And literally that is the only real kind of move that I'm looking for. So if you want to draw it as like a line or some arrows, it would essentially look like either this for a move up, or it would be vice versa, which is the example I'm showing on screen. So now for Euro USD, it looks like we've kind of bottomed out. We've got like a double bottom formed. You could probably argue like here, like tapped into some form of demand level that we could say, just based on what's previously happened. We had a decent push back and a push up. But so ideally, I think we'll probably start a little bit of bull structure. Maybe it depends what happens when we reach like these levels again. So I think ideally you could probably shoot for that, which is about 65 pips or so. It just depends how market opens and what happens, obviously, to the dollar strength anyway, because it's going to make a large difference to whether the ideas that I've put forward will play out. So we'll see on that one. Of course, if you've got any questions during the webinar, just throw something in the comments box. If obviously you don't have questions, but you think of questions after, always send me an email. So it's info@ah-fx.co.uk. And I usually will respond the same day to a question. If it's multiple questions, it might take me a little bit longer to respond, but all being well, I usually respond within the same day. Depends what other commitments I've got going on at the moment. I'm just trying to think of other pairs I would usually look for. So we've gone through GBP, JPY. So a good example of this now. So I can give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So low. Low, low into low, high. Into low. So hopefully now, if I make that a little bit bigger, this should make sense as to why more trades have been taken and more entries have been taken. Essentially, I'm just looking now. So the last lower high was where I took the second entry. So when I said I took the entry at 148,350, essentially come down, push down, formed a new low, started making bearish market structure, essentially lower lows and lower highs. We then came up, formed lower high. I then took an entry on, I want to say, will have been that, probably that candle. So ended up in a little bit of drawdown. Not too much though. For the second entry, and then we pushed down and I've drawn a daily trend line, and we broke the daily trend line as well. So that's further confirmation. We had a big push down and took out this previous low. So if we look at this, so initial target was probably going to be that, but obviously, like I said, I was looking for 145,200 as a long-term goal. So now, like I say, I am looking for 145,200, and I expect us to achieve that with stop loss running in profit. I'd like to think by the end of the week, because I've been in it for quite a while now. However, I'm not too fussy. The only bad thing really is the swap fees are getting quite high now, because I've been in it, like I say, for about 20 days. Right, USD CAD, yeah, happy to go over USD CAD. Again, quite a good example now if we look at this. So high, low, So here's another example of setups that I might look for. Obviously, the GBP JPY setup was just a weekly double top. This, you could argue on the daily that you've got high formed initial structure wise. So we've had a big push up from this area, made a higher low. You could also argue that we had some kind of support, stroke demand at this point, like on a small time frame. I would probably, if we look into the 4 hour now as well, this will probably give you a better idea. So if you look at this, like I said, we've got some kind of demand, some kind of support, some kind of demand. We've had a big push off, retested the previous high, so around that area, and now we've since pushed on another 40 pips. So I think probably target wise, initially I'd say this point here that I've already mapped out. So that's another 70 pips or so from like the last decent sell-off area. But if we close that down now, you can see that essentially we have just been in a bit of a range in market. There isn't anything massive to go on for USD CAD. Like there isn't anything that tells me that we are going to have a massive move unless we've got a non-farm and rate, different rates that will come out, CAD rates, etc. Yeah, this has been recorded. It has been recorded. Any other pairs that you guys would like me to go over, please let me know. Or if you've got any questions, please let me know about those also, and I'm happy to go over them. So that's obviously what the chat box is for. GBP USD, yeah, that's fine. So interesting. This was another setup that I think I shouted over to, like the double top challenge, Regal Forex. Mentioned it a couple of times now. Interesting actually. So we had a decent push down from the daily double top. Yeah, not too bad at all. Actually, about 300 pips, which is not to be argued about. Considering your stop loss wouldn't have been too big. Your stop loss probably would have been what, 90 pips. So like a good 1 to 3 again. Risk reward. For me, there's probably not really a setup on this at the moment. We jump into maybe 4 hour, maybe might show a little bit more clarity, but there isn't anything really. I wouldn't say that we are forming like bearish structure. I mean, you could argue that we've got like small amounts. So you could say that was first high. These are high lows, new highs made. But then this point here was like a market gap last week. So last Sunday night we gapped down like 80 pips, which was enjoyable because obviously I was in short for GBP JPY, but obviously it was just pound pairs in general that gapped down like 80 pips. Like I said, for me there isn't any kind of movement on this at the moment. Nothing to suggest we should be taking buys or taking sells. If you want my honest opinion, I would just wait until something clear cut happens. What other pair did we want to go through? GBP CAD. GBP CAD probably the same. This level looks interesting. Over time, we might come back to retest this maybe. I'd say like longer burn. You're probably looking at this. If we can get out of this point, so essentially we've come up, we made an initial high, made an initial high low. So I'm expecting maybe new high up here. And again, you can see I've had a push up. I've had a push down. And I'm expecting us to push back up either to retest this point, which would be, what's that, 130 pips or so, or to make a new high, or perhaps even push to this last sell-off area. Gold, I've already gone through gold. Gold is basically in a box at the moment. There isn't anything to suggest it's going to absolutely pop out of it. News-wise, not that I've read. Again, fundamentals are obviously really important, but I don't really check them too often, especially if I've got stop loss in profit. It's fine. What other pairs do we want to go? Informative as ever. No problem at all. I appreciate, obviously, you attending. As you can probably imagine. Had a couple of trolls on Instagram earlier, so it's always good to see people attending and enjoying themselves. Yeah, GJ and UJ is done. I've done both of them. EJ is next. Yeah, EJ's fine. I don't mind doing EJ as well. What have we got? So yeah, EJ was a nice double top. Again, called that out. Double tops isn't like a trading style for me, but it's just something I keep in consideration. So since obviously just like joining that Telegram group, I've helped out with that. So I do keep my eyes out, and if I do see anything, I'll pop it in there. But yeah, so obviously that's probably the last time I've marked will be EJ. I think 4 hourly, so we're obviously on a decent bear run at this point now. So this, if we come down here, so this is our most recent low. I think it's hard to say exactly where we'll come up to, but let's say, for example, we come up about here, make a low high, and then probably following that, we should continue pushing down. Yeah, we should continue pushing down, essentially, just continue making lows. For me, an area that I'd probably be looking for, like this seems like a busy area of price. So what's that? Still probably another. Yeah, still another 350 pips. So, I mean, there's still plenty of room to go with EJ if you're looking to take shorts. I would have a bearish bias anyway. Fundamentals, yeah. So I'd have a look at the news, just unless it's anything massive like a bank rate or like interest rate decision or non-farm payroll or just anything that could have a decent effect, like Brexit talk or, for example, like a big stock crash. If the stock market's considerably down or something like that, then I might look into USD pairs, etc. And look on like CNBC. Is it CNBC? Yeah, CNBC, which gives you like the what's it called? Gives you the SP 500 and another report. I can't think what it is. So another report just that would help you do analysis in line with fundamentals. Profit wise, swinging versus scalping is usually the same. I'm still risking the same, but it's just takes a little bit longer. But it just goes with lifestyle choice, to be perfectly honest. Like I always say, trading's not a one size fits all. It's whatever your lifestyle permits. And at the moment, swing trading is just something that I have a lot less time, so it just makes a lot more sense. I've already gone over Euro USD, but obviously the webinar has been recorded, so don't worry if you've missed a certain pair. Obviously, I'll just upload it to YouTube regardless. So, obviously keep an eye out for that. It should upload probably later this evening or afternoon. I'll put it on my Google Drive. I'll give a copy also to Raquel, to Ted, of course, to Kevin, to Rakar, basically to anyone, to David, whoever's groups you're in, or even if you're not in their groups, I'll put it on YouTube because I put the link out for the whole of Instagram. Interesting difference in biases. Yeah, I think it just is one of those at the moment. Obviously, Yen's got a decent bit of strength, and obviously pound is just weak. just weak as fuck at the minute, as well as Euro. I actually went to Germany in September and I bought my Euros at the start of the year, just predicting decent free fall. So I got a really good rate on that. Obviously a little bit off topic, but so those are the pairs I've happy to go over at the moment. Should you have any questions, I'm going to kind of open the floor now to kind of a little bit of Q&A. And then we can kind of go from there. So any questions you've got, put them in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll, finish the webinar here. Nice and chilled, 15, 20 minutes, just going through some analysis, go through some pairs, and just sort of give my outlook on the market for the week ahead. So calls for the week are GJ 145,200, gold 1240, USD JPY 111, and what else did we say? Yeah, I think that's probably it for this week. Those three are what spread on Euros. Brokers, Traders Domain. I have an account with Traders Domain and I have an account with IC Markets. Both decent brokers. I've never struggled getting money in or putting money out of them. Entry points, I would so for example, if we say an entry point for GJ as an example, this is your entry if you're taking sells, like I said earlier, because this one here is the newest. So because it was like the newest lower high was forming, essentially I would wait it out until you've had like a decent candle close like this. So essentially it's a couple of wicks up, and then you want to be looking to probably take sells, and then your initial target would be like this level here, as take profit. That's literally just how I would take a trade. So low is here. Essentially, you're just taking the trade to retest the last low. So you're going up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. Really, really simple, real simplistic way. Just price action candles, yeah, to be perfectly honest with you. I probably wouldn't even know what to call how I trade at the moment. It's just swing, like intraday. Any more questions? No, we should be cool then. No more questions. Obviously, have a fantastic Sunday. I know it was just a quick webinar. Enjoy. Like I said, enjoy Sundays, and we can catch up probably not next week, just because I've got a birthday to go to. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so I probably won't be doing a webinar. But apart from that, enjoy yourselves and peace out for now. This will go on YouTube shortly.